Grégoire, I've been looking at your website here, and there was an online quote by your CEO, Dante Bonacina: wine as experiential in conscious consumption. Can you tell me about that?
So drinking wine is living an experience filled with sensation and knowledge. But what he means also is that consumption must be conscious. Like any other substance, from alcohol to tobacco, I think it's important to be informed about its effect and the limits of responsible consumption.
Hmm.
The key concept is moderation and responsibility.
Welcome to this special Clubhouse session of the Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as members of the Italian wine community engage in fascinating conversations about contemporary wine topics. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. And remember to subscribe and rate the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.
Hello and welcome to Clubhouse, the Ambassador's Corner. My name is Carla Ravagnolo and today I'm pleased to welcome Beverley Bourdin and her guest Grégoire Desforges Marzotto from Baglio di Pianetto winery. Welcome everybody.
Thank you for
Hello.
having us.
Of course, our pleasure. So before passing the mic to Beverley, I would like to share with our listeners a few information about her. So Beverley actually lives in Alberta, Canada, and although her career has been a registered nurse in the operating room, she is a very serious wine enthusiast and promoter of quality Italian wines, specifically of smaller wine producers. Some designations earned include International Sommelier Guild Advanced, several Wine Scholar Guild programs, the WSET Level 3, and most notably the Italian Wine Ambassador certification through the Vinitaly International Academy. So Beverley, tell us, how did you discover about Baglio di Pianetto wines?
While in Western Sicily in the first week of December, our Vinitaly Ambassador press tour visited quality benchmark producers near Palermo, and we were graciously hosted by Baglio di Pianetto and stayed a night in the Agririle Hotel.
Sounds lovely. So why did you decide to invite Grégoire Desforges with us today? How did you connect with him?
Well, I see immense potential for these wines and the winery stay experience because not everybody drinks wine. So I think that hotel and property offers a lot beyond just drinking wine. It's just a beautiful environment. The region is very high altitude, Vini Altura. So typically high altitude Sicily is only thought of as Etna, but these vineyards start at about 650 meters above sea level and go up to 900 or more. And I generally enjoy higher elevation wines. Grégoire has a vision to reinvent Baglio in an era of decreased consumption, climate challenges, trade challenges, environmental respect, and wine style changes to emphasize terroir being fresher and gastronomic. And I really believe that he's brave and quite calculated about how to bring this about. And there's got to be an easier way to make a living. So I admire him for this.
I'm very much looking forward to hearing this conversation. If you had to recap what are going to be the main learning objectives of this interview, what should we expect?
Well, the challenges of Baglio di Pianetto are not isolated within the wine industry, and I want to share with the listeners the fortitude and planning it takes to bottle great wine with generational transition, with several external pressures, and why they should look for this producer in a wine store because there's quite a story in the bottle.
Nice. So without any further ado, I will now mute myself so you can continue your conversation with Grégoire.
Okay, Grégoire, so you have a foot in two countries, Italy and France. So you were born and raised in Paris to an Italian mother and a French father.
Exactly.
Yes. So you are a part of a fourth generation winemaking Marzotto family on your mom's side. So you've lived in 5 different countries, traveled to over 75. You have a global outlook, which is complemented by prior experiences in management consulting and entrepreneurial ventures in the food and beverage sector. Recently, I think it was just in the new year before Christmas, you acquired the family's winery and hotel located in the mountains of Palermo, up to 930 meters above sea level. This estate, although quite beautiful, is distressed and is currently unprofitable, and I know you're going to change that. Grégoire's challenge is to breathe new life into both the businesses, the winery and hotel, and placing humans and nature at the core of this transformation with a vision that combines innovation, sustainability, and a deep respect for tradition. This winery was founded in 1996 by Florence and Paolo Marzotto, and they wanted a Bordelais-style chateau, so they planted both Sicilian and international grapes. They planted Inzolia, Grillo, Catarato, Moscato, Frappato, Nero d'Avola, and some traditional French grapes like Viognier, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. So, of your wines, I really enjoyed your Via Francia, the Bianco, and the Rosso, and actually the whole lineup is pretty tasty.
Thank you, Beverly.
So, are you ready for some questions? Are you comfortable?
We're ready and very comfortable and very happy
Okay.
to answer.
Okay. So, you've had a lot of diversified experience around the world. So, how do you feel this has all prepared you for this challenge?
Well, I think that studying a mix of different themes, international relations, marketing, and finance, and working as a management consultant taught me to have a critical thinking and a good base for problem solving, which helped me tackle economical and, let's say, strategic parts of the entrepreneurial mission. Though I will say that the wine is particularly complex, and I think that's what it makes its beauty. As for my preparation on the wine industry, I think you guys are taking care of it. I just passed. Actually, I don't know if I passed it, but I think so. I hope so. I also hope with merit my one set level 2, and I'm gonna be back in your offices for the third level very soon. I think traveling a lot, meeting a lot of people, different cultures, gives me a broader view on trends, what's happening in the world, and a flexibility to approach a new industry that I didn't know before, and also a new home that is now Palermo, with more ease to adapt to new cultures. That's, I think, is a good start to answer the question.
Well, I think you're a man of the world, so I think it gives you a very broad perspective on this. So, in front of me, Grégoire, I've printed off pictures that I took of your property. I see beautiful rolling hills, I see vineyards, olive trees. I remember walking in your vineyard at sunrise and my feet were heavy with clay. Can you tell me about the soil and topography of the property?
Of course. So we're just 20 minutes away from Palermo in the Contar de Pianetto. It's a corner of Sicily that is quite distinguished by its altitude and unique microclimate. It's nestled into an amphitheater of mountains just close to Santa Cristina di Gela, and it's very high altitude. We are between 630 meters, as you mentioned, and we're gonna also plant vineyards up to 930 meters. So this is gonna be very challenging. And it means that there's going to be a strong temperature variation between day and night. Together with clay soils, I think it's going to be an ideal scenario to produce elegant and complex wines. As you mentioned, we have a beautiful biodiversity. That's the legacy of my grandmother, Florence, that you earlier mentioned. And we have also an very interesting variety of exposure. We have 2 hectares of olive groves cultivated with Biancolilla and Cerasuolo varieties. And we actually produce extra virgin oil that has been now modified and enhanced and will be available from this Vinitaly at the stand. So I hope you can come and taste it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a good summary for that.
All right. I was quite surprised at how extensive your solar power was. And are you totally self sufficient with that?
Not totally, but we produce up to 70% of the energy requirement for the cantina, which it's something that I'm very proud of that we did, if I'm not mistaken, in the years 2010, which was quite
Mhm.
early. And we have also implemented a lot of, actually, my grandfather had already implemented a lot of sustainable measure, like a lake that recuperates rainwater that has a capacity of approximately 43,000 meters cube. So enough to irrigate almost all the vineyard. Also, the cantina is vertically designed. It allows us to reduce environmental impact by minimizing energy use for grape movement, and we leverage geothermal energy for temperature regulation. And I love to mention that this has never been done for marketing purpose. This has been done because we just care about respecting the land.
Well, your grandfather had foresight for the environmental considerations, especially with the drought that has occurred in Sicily, conserving a lot of or capturing a lot of water. So, what grapes are you going to focus on going forward, especially the ones going to those higher elevations?
So we're still, let's say, in the restructuring process. As you said, the company is not profitable. And this restructuring process can be divided into different phases. Last year, we focused on product and brand. And I think the product part will last another 5 years at least, because we just planted and you get the first one approximately 5 years later. But what I can tell you for now is that looking ahead, the objective is going to be to promote indigenous Sicilian varieties, which represent the core of our identity. So you remember we have Nero d'Avola, Frappato, Cattarato, Insolia, and Grillo, and they will remain at the center of our production because they best express, I think, the character of our land. But at the same time, and I cannot tell you yet, we are going to explore new possibilities with some historic Sicilian varieties for sure, always keeping in mind the authenticity and the respect of our terroir. There's two varieties that I like to talk about that my grandparents planted. It's Syrah and Viognier, because they reached the highest expression in our terroir. And there's going to be a special project that is very dear to me with the Viognier. That was a grape that was particularly cherished by my grandmother, but I'm not going to tell you more for now.
Okay.
You'll have surprises soon.
Okay, I must tell you that Syrah is one of my favorite grapes. I don't know if I can say that in an Italian wine podcast, but Italian Syrah is much different. It's beautifully transformed. Since we're talking about grapes, I see that you have engaged in the services of Graziana Grassini. Like, she is absolute
Yes.
firepower, because I think of her involvement with Sassicaia and Giusti, how she, elevated their Prosecco to that brut Prosecco, which is absolutely lovely. So tell me what Graziana is going to do with your property.
So she's been involved. She's a consultant, but I don't like to call her a consultant because she's properly part of the team. She has really embraced the project since 2023. She guides in a very respectful and collaborative way our two resident enologists, Francesco Mattesi and Giuseppe Lo Iacono, that have been here for quite a few years. And she took a totally different approach with them from what we have seen before with consultants, let's say. She's making them grow. And it's beautiful to see because these guys are sparkling at the moment. And from start, I think her work has been focusing on translating the uniqueness of our microzones into the bottle, reinforcing the increasingly defined identity of the winery. She's focused on preserving and expressing the authenticity of the territory, and she's rooted in studying new techniques that can support vineyard care and grape processing. So she's in the field. And it's, I think, an approach that aligns perfectly with this renewed vision that we have, that places the land itself at the center, no? So microzoning, meticulous selection, attentive vineyard observation, and especially close collaboration with agronomists, allowing our wines to better translate and interpret this unique terroir that we have that is very special. And remember, she has been here since 2023, so it's a long process. Things come with time in winemaking. It's the timing of the nature, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
And it's been a year and something that she's here, so it's going to be a long process. And I also have a glass of wine in front of me of the new vintage, and it's different from the last one. So I'm very happy. I'm very proud. It's a process that needs a lot of patience, which is not one of my best skills, but I'm learning. And I'm very, very happy of her involvement in the company.
Well, Grégoire, it sounds like you're assembling a very strong team. Your staff did indulge our Vinitaly ambassadors by letting us do barrel tasting, and that was truly a treat. I thank you again for that. So, 5 years ago, if you pick any wine, what did it taste like 5 years ago? And what do you hope it to taste like in the future? How will it change?
Radically, I think. 5 years ago, the style was reflected my grandparents' vision. My grandfather in particular loved structure wines inspired of Bordeaux blends. And so there was a particularly attention to the use of wood. At the time, I think it was probably a right strategy because these were full-bodied enveloping wines. I think they were more appreciated, but today our vision is completely different. I still love these wines, but my goal is to have finesse, elegance, wines with a lesser alcoholic content. And this evolution, let's say that it's not just a style choice, but it's a realization. I think that by revisiting some of the wineries' earliest vintage, when the wines were still young, we realized that even those wines leaned towards more elegance than power, thanks to the attitude. and in the way the land itself guides us, and we want to follow its lead by respecting the authenticity.
So, Grégoire, in terms of marketing, which consumer profile or generation do you think your new vision will appeal to? So, there is, globally some decreased consumption of wine. So, do you think this new style of wine and approach will appeal to a younger consumer, or who are you thinking of?
Yeah, well, we have to redefine the brand with a premium focus that may change our customer base, but I think that still our wines will remain accessible to everyone. We're going more premium because there's a decrease in consumption, and we want our wine to be for special occasions. The pricing will remain affordable to different demographics, but what I really care about is that there's going to be a decrease in the alcohol content, and this is going to happen naturally because we're going higher in altitude, and that's going to help us to reach younger generation. And I think that the new marketing that we have, the new brand, is telling a story of a family vineyard that say that it's going through generational shift, which I think is more captivating to new generations. The company going through a generational shift with someone taking control that is quite young, relatively young, is going to be more captivating to new generation.
But it's
Thank
not
you.
just younger generations. I'm certainly not younger, but I do appreciate wines with less alcohol. And I find even within our household and friends, family group, we're drinking a lot less, but we're drinking better. And we're very mindful of what we consume. So we make it more of an event, not just something that is very casual. And I think you have to respect the effort that was put into the bottle as well.
I completely agree.
So, yeah, higher elevation, I think, is a very strong point because most people think of higher elevations, it's something that's just limited to Etna and Sicily. And I think you've got a very strong playing card with that property. And I think that really, from my perspective, that really needs to be brought to attention more because high altitude wines are so delicious. They're less alcohol, they're fresher. And I think you've got a lot of strong points for Baglio di Pianetto. Hey, talking about wine
Thank
here,
you.
you treated us to a lovely dessert wine. It was a Moscato di Noto, and it was absolutely delicious. And it's also an area with some very rare violets. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, for sure. This is a project and a wine that I particularly cherish. The name is Era, and it's a Passito wine made of blend of archival vintages of Moscato from Val di Noto, grapes that are from our high altitude vineyards in Santa Cristina di Gela and Pianelli Albanesi. We decided to give the name Era, which means in the Arbresh language, wind, breathe, which refers to the freshness that you can find both in the name and the palate, coming again from the temperature variation of the high altitude vineyards. It's a soft and delicate pasito made from a natural late harvest and has 30.5% alcohol, yes. I think it also balances sweetness and acidity with an interesting citrus note, honey, and candied fruit, making it really versatile in pairing. So you mentioned the flower on the label. It's called the
Yes.
Viola Ucraeana, and it's very particular. Why? Because it only grows on 1 hectare of the Monte Pizzuta, which is the highest peak of Piana dell'Albanese. So we decided to put it on the bottle to thank the beauty of nature itself.
Is that a protected flower, Grégoire, the little violet?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to this, but I don't think so.
Okay, I think it's so special and
I
rare.
will check it out, but I haven't heard of this, so I will check it out.
Okay, so if I had, let's say I had 2 glasses of wine in front of me, an Etna Catarratto and one of your Catarratto, what would I taste that would be different?
Well, I think that the terroir makes them quite different. On the Etna, you have like this volcanic soil that gives the wine an amazing smoky and ashy notes, which partly overshadows the more fruity notes. There's also a well-defined minerality with maybe a bit of saline imprint. I personally love Etna wines. If you compare it with a Catarato di Altura, our Catarato, I think it's quite different in a way that it's maybe a more complex and multi-layered profile. The minerality definitely remains due to our soil made of clay and this Ficilino stone that is an endemic rock that gives this subtle flint note, but it quickly gives away to florals, citrus, and white fruit aromas. So I would say that both are fresh, but while the Etna Catarato leans towards like smokiness, volcanic character, maybe the high altitude Catarato is more leaning toward fruit forward and freshness elegance.
Well, I really enjoy a good Catarato, and I like it in a Catarato, but that has such a screeching acidity. It is fresh, like it's beautifully fresh. What I noticed on your Catarato was more of preserved lemons and grapefruit pith and like a white flower. But on the finish, I got a very pleasant acidity and definitely a saline tang on the end. So it does speak to the terroir being different.
Yes, definitely the terroir is very, very different.
Hey, Grégoire, I've been looking at your website here, and there was an online quote by your CEO, Dante Bonacina. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
Now you said it perfectly.
He has a quote here: wine as experiential in conscious consumption. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I remember this quote. I think it's a fundamental concept that should guide how we talk about wine today. Let's say that wine is neither a necessity or imposed product. It's a pleasure, it's an experience that someone decides to embrace. I think every bottle tells a story, the story of the land, the culture, the terroir, all the traditions. And those who drink it to discover the emotions and the context in which it was created, no? So drinking wine is living an experience filled with sensation and knowledge. But what he means also is that consumption must be conscious. Like any other substance, from alcohol to tobacco, I think it's important to be informed about its effect and the limits of responsible consumption. The key concept is moderation and responsibility.
Yes, those are our catchwords these days, aren't they?
Yes.
So, your hotel, it's a beautiful building. It was very comfortable to stay there. I love the room I had. The bathroom was big enough to park two small cars.
Yes.
But you have some vision about doing things differently at that hotel. And to me, I can see that as a place for families to go as well, because you've got a gorgeous swimming pool. There's lots of room to run around and explore. Are you going to do anything different to the hotel?
Yes, the hotel is undergoing the studying of a new concept, and we are evaluating the possibility to build a few more rooms and a spa. The pillars are going to be sustainability, food and beverage, experience, and design. And it's definitely going to have a very broad customer reach. I think families are going to have a great time, couples, wine lovers. One thing that are particularly cherish, let's say, is the concept of having a lot of experiences. I think that now the trend is, at least for me, to have a lot of experience, authentic experience related to culture and nature, especially in our hotel that is nestled in this amazing landscape in within a winery. So we're gonna have a lot of activities that people can enjoy. I can do a very quick list. I don't know, cooking class, ricotta making, winery tour, wine tasting, maybe initiation to enology, picnics everywhere in the property, horse riding, bicycling, trekking. I think there's gonna be a lot of places where we're gonna place bed for couples to enjoy, or couples or not only, but enjoy the sunrises as we did, or the sunset. And there's like activity that I'm trying to implement of having every night around 11 p.m. the hotel shut down all the external and most of the internal lights to allow people to sit on the rooftop on couches and cushions and stargaze with a nice glass of wine and a telescope to watch the stars. And this would be amazing. There's another thing that I'm really struggling with at the moment. I'm trying to make the hotel net zero emission or potentially fully autonomous. And I'm not an engineer, so it's hard to implement. And even the engineers are having a tough time, but it's a beautiful challenge. So we are assessing all the top-notch technologies as geothermal, biomass, photovoltaic, EV tubes to make it fully sustainable. And
Wow.
so one activity could be also just a tour of the sustainability. And the challenge is going to be to embed all these technologies that sincerely are not very aesthetically beautiful within the hotel so
Mm-hmm.
that they are beautifully blended with the landscape.
Wow. I seek out dark sky preserves. to watch the stars. And it's so nice to turn off urban lighting or household lighting and just watch the heavens. Even just taking that app on the iPad, Skyview, to find the constellations, I think your
Yes.
setting would be perfect for that. Your staff, oh my gosh, we had such a busy week at Taormina on tour. But when we got to your hotel, it was like putting the brakes on and breathing. There was open space, fresh air, no traffic noise. And your staff were so hospitable. I felt like I was visiting a distant relative rather than, staff at a restaurant. They were very kind and they really endeavored to make us all comfortable.
I thank you very much for this comment. It makes me very happy. And this is the whole concept: simple luxury, not too much staff to allow privacy and exclusivity. This is the whole concept that you just mentioned.
Well, I look forward to seeing how your hotel will evolve with renovations. One of the members of our Italian ambassadors is actually an architect, Nixon from Kenya. And I know he was looking at sight lines and staircases and windows with an architect's perspective, and you've got tremendous potential there.
Thank you very much. I met him. I remember him.
Yes, bright young man. He calls me his Nona. I'm quite
Yes.
flattered. So, Grégoire, what is your most memorable non-Sicilian wine? And which wine or wine producer would you like to emulate?
Wow, it's difficult question. I think I couldn't name just one because I think my admiration goes to anyone who has passion and dedication to their project. I think wine is not just technique, it's vision, sacrifice, and love of the land. But if you really force me to to
Yes, I'm
mention
putting,
one,
yes,
force me.
okay.
But then you have to say it, force me. No. Uh,
Okay, tell me, Grégoire, what is your favorite?
okay. Okay. Recently, I drank an Etna wine, Profumo di Vulcano,
Mm-hmm.
from Federico Graziani. And I got informed of his winemaking philosophy and about his minimal chemical intervention in land in the winery. And I think this Etna was fantastic because it had body, it had this smoky flavor, but it had a good balance with a bit of fruit. And I was really mesmerized by this wine.
Well, good, good. So right now I blew up many of the photos that I took around your property and the road Via Franca. Is that a part of the pilgrimage route, Francagena, or is it just a borrowed name?
It's the original name. It's the address of the company, and it's a pure coincidence. And I think that's why we decided to give to our best wine line, the name Via
Mm-hmm.
Francia, because it celebrates my French and Italian origins. And I think that it's actually a fun coincidence that in the middle of Sicily, we landed in Via Francia, which means
Okay.
the street France.
All right. Okay. I would imagine that you have a lot of. Do you thrive on pressure, Grégoire? Does it motivate you or does it wear you down? And how do you recharge?
It depends on the level of pressure. It can be positive or negative, but
Mm.
at the moment, I definitely need a bit of support. I get it from my mother, my girlfriend, my sister, that is a therapist. So she reassures me a lot. But yeah, recharging is very important part of my life. And I do it with being healthy, doing sports, getting off radar. But I must say that at the moment, to be fairly honest, I have a bit of a struggle with work-life balance. It's a very special moment. It's a very ambitious project, working on the hotel project, on the restructuring of the cantina. So it's very important for me to have support, people that help me through the mission on the cantina. I feel very, very blessed for the team that I have. The CEO, Dante Bonaccina, gives me a lot of serenity, but really the whole team of Baglio that have seen me grown since I was 6 years old. So there's a lot of trust, there's a good level of empathy, and I feel in safe hands. But yes, there is moments that are difficult at the moment. If I'm gonna be honest. It is tough. My goal is definitely to have a healthy structure for my employees and for myself, and so that everyone don't have to struggle with
Yes.
work-life balance issues.
Well, Grégoire, I think that's something that we have learned or hopefully learned in the last 4 years is self-care and support. And you have an enormous workload on you. So I have confidence that you'll succeed at it. You were also doing the tour of many different wine exhibitions. You were in Paris for the Wine Fest. Can you tell me about that? And who did you connect with and what did you learn from it?
Paris was amazing. I had a great time. I grew up there, so I spent, I think, something like a month before Paris contacting all of my friends, friends of friends, reaching people that are working in the wine industry, restaurant, and so on. So I connected with a lot of people. For us, France was not a very strategic market, but France, Paris in particular, has this legend that Paris has more Italian restaurant than all the nationalities of restaurants put together. I'm not sure this is a true data, so don't take my word for it. But there's a lot of Italian restaurants, so it could be. What did I learn from it? I just started my PR role. So I'm starting to enjoy a lot telling the story, being at the stand, and so on. And it was very tough in Paris, to be honest, because I'm not sure I should say this, but French people have a very high opinion of their food and beverage culture. So if they eventually pass through Italy, they can be very critical. So I learned not to take things personally, definitely. And yeah, I just hope that France can become a good market for us. And about the fair was very well organized. I completely understand the fact that France must have a very important wine fair. I consider France and Italy the pioneers in winemaking, and I think that Paris deserves to have one of the most important wine fairs in the world. I think it's going to become, if it's not almost already the case with Verona. So I think that we're going to see more and more interest in that fair.
Well, Grégoire, I was quite surprised when we were in Paris last year that there was right in the Place de Saint Michel near the river is a Signor Vino store. And you walk in and it's all Italians, no different than the one you'll see in Verona. And of course, they have a
Yes.
restaurant in there where you could purchase wine off the shelf and then take it up to the restaurant. So I don't think they would do that move of putting up a large store in a prestigious location if they didn't think that Italian wine could survive in Paris.
I completely agree with you, and it's fun but that you mentioned this because I don't know if you remember, but you told me like to check out the Signorino if I was missing Italian wines. And I went and had a bottle of my own wine in Signorino in Paris. So thank you very much for that tip.
I think the beauty of Italian wine, and I see a lot of food pairing possibilities with your portfolio, is Italian wine goes so well with global cuisines. And one of the groups that I go to occasionally is Amici dell'Unitria, and they hold Italian wine dinners, but the food could be Chinese, Japanese, Filipino. It's just, I think gastronomic possibilities are rich, and it just does not have to be Italian or Sicilian fare. So that's my 2 cents worth. I think you can drink Italian anywhere with anything. So,
Yes, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Yes.
okay. So I think I'm done with my questions, Grégoire. Do you have anything else you want to tell me?
Well, I think we've been through a lot. I was very honored, and I thank you for this opportunity. I would love to come back in a year or a few years to tell you more of the evolution of the project. And unfortunately, if you're coming back to Sicily next year, it's going to sound strange, but I hope I won't be able to welcome you in the hotel because it's going to be in a restructuring process. And I hope I will be able to welcome you in 2027. And I would love to have this vertical, if you understand what I mean, to see the evolution of the wine. And it was very nice to speak with you. Thank you again. And I also hope to see you soon. I think probably, no, you told me you're not coming to Vinitaly, if I'm not mistaken, but we'll meet
Okay.
around.
Well, Grégoire, I reserve the right to interview you again. So,
Please.
Baglio di Pianetto Part 2. How's that?
It sounds great. Sounds
Okay.
great.
All right, my friend. I wish you a good evening.
I read a comment from Nixon Munga. I was reading the comment in the chat, who says, loved the serenity at Baglio di Pianetto, the wines, the wonderful people, their architecture, and of course, Grégoire's vision of the future. Can't wait to taste the future. Can't wait to be back. which I think
Thank
it's lovely.
thank you so much, Nixon. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's very warming and it feels really good to hear these kind words. And we will probably meet again at Baglio di Pianetto.
So, with this positive comments, I think this is a wrap. So, thank you so much for being here. It's been really a pleasure to hear your story. Although I knew it already, but it's been a real pleasure. So, can't wait to see you in person and to see you at Vinitaly. Thank you, Beverly.
Stay well. Okay,
So,
Grégoire.
Carla, Beverly, Elena, thank you so much and see you very soon.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you,
Grazie.
Carla.
great. Have a great one, everybody.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.